If you are one of the 6.5 million people in Generation X, then you are the first generation that grew up on healthy diet food. Foods that were fat-free or low-fat, sugar-free, things like snack roll cookies and microwave dinners. They said that they were healthy, but instead, what really happened was that they gave us metabolic dysfunction and food addiction. I'm Dr. Joanette, your longevity expert, professor of medicine, Blue Zone native. I grew up in one of those little areas around the world where the people live into their 90s and 100s in vibrant health. Let me contrast to this with what I see when I go to work every day in the ER. I have patients coming in that are younger and younger with metabolic syndrome and food addictions that they didn't choose. Instead, they were programmed, and now they are paying the price. Let's go back in time to the 1980s when all of that healthy diet food first hit the shelves of our grocery stores. That wasn't even real food. What that diet food was chemically engineered to be addictive. It was also cheap and engineered to have very long shelf lives. And Generation X, you were the first generation that ate this food and grew up with this as part of your diet. Let's take a look at what might have been a day of food in someone in the 1980s growing up. It would start off with maybe those Pop-Tarts, or how about a Slim Shake? For lunch, it was white bread sandwich with mayonnaise and a slice of bologna. And then for dinner, you sat down in front of the TV and had one of those amazing TV dinners. Afterwards, as you watched TV, you snacked on ultra-processed food that was healthy, like fat-free string cheese or cookies that never filled you up, even though you may have eaten the whole bag. There was a study recently. In fact, it came out only a few weeks ago on September 29 of 2025. The study was published in the journal Addiction, and what it showed to me was surprising. What it showed was that 21% of women in this country and 10% of men, that's 1 in 5 of the women and 1 in 10 of the men, now meet the criteria for ultra-processed food addiction. Why are they addicted? Because they were raised on those chemicals in the ultra-processed food that then wired their taste buds to crave more ultra-processed food. And it also wired their brain to be addicted to the dopamine spikes that those chemicals cause every time they are eaten. Ultra-processed food isn't just junk food. It is chemical manipulation. What are the consequences? I see them every time I go to work. They are obesity, chronic disease, hypertension, heart disease, diabetes in younger and younger people, people in their 30s and 40s and 50s. They are also early onset of cognitive decline and dementia. And at the root of it is the chronic inflammation that is caused by the chemicals in ultra-processed food. So this is what happens when our food is no longer food, but is a chemically engineered product. If this is resonating with you so far, thank you for liking, subscribing, and please share this with someone that you know or love who needs to hear it. We have to begin to break that unhealthy cycle, because if we don't, let's talk about what our future might look like. If Generation X is the first generation to become addicted to ultra-processed food, what about the future generations, the millennials and Generation Z and beyond? Not only are they growing up and have grown up with ultra-processed food, but they've also now have instant delivery, TikTok food trends, as well as AI-generated cravings. If we don't do something to intervene now, we are going to see a bleak health future, a future where our life expectancy will continue to decline. Over the last 100 years, it has consistently improved, and now it's stalled out and even begin to decline. In addition to that, we're going to see more and more chronic diseases as well as cognitive decline and Alzheimer's dementia. We need to stop normalizing that these things are part of normal aging, because they aren't. I was so forcefully reminded recently when I was working with one of my medical students, and she was telling me about the patient that she has seen who was struggling with cognitive decline and cognitive issues. I asked her, what do you think is the cause of your patient's cognitive issues? And she looked at me a little bit puzzled, and she said, well, I guess that we just all have memory problems as we get older. And I stopped her and I said, your patient is only 57. It is never normal to have cognitive decline, early dementia, no matter what age you are, whether you are 57, 77, 97, or beyond. So let's stop normalizing cognitive decline, chronic diseases as we age. Here's the good news. If we can wire our brain for addiction, those dopamine spikes, we can also unwire our brain and then rewire it to take back our health, to reduce inflammation and reclaim our energy. We can rewire our brain and our taste buds to connect with the taste of real food, foods that will actually nourish us, foods that I grew up with and my ancestors grew up with, living in a blue zone. My mom recently passed away at the age of 102. And I remember on her 100th birthday, she was quite puzzled and confused by all of the excitement that she had lived to be 100 years old. In her community, living to 100 was considered normal. Of course you would live to be 100 because that's what the people in her community typically lived. We all can have this. So stick with me here and let this channel be your resource. We've all been lied to for way too long, and now it is time to eat for us, to eat as if our life depended upon it, because it does. So are you ready to act? If you are, go to my website, growwithdrjoanette.com, because there I am going to share with you and have created for you real recipes with real food and nutrients. I have nutrient-dense recipes that will help you replace all of that ultra-processed food that is killing you. So let's grow stronger and live longer, thrive better. We can do it together. Thank you for joining me today, and we'll see you next time on the Dr. Joanette channel.